Hello there. Welcome back to Mexican. I'm just following up in regards to a video that Rebecca and I were invited to a wedding in Mexico by her prima, uh, Marta. And so the wedding will take place in Xochitepec. Now, Xochitepec is just outside Mexico City, not far, like hour, and it's close to Cuernavaca, which is in the state of Morelos. Okay. So our trip took us from Edmonton to Vancouver to Mexico City. And in Mexico City, we arrived quite late. We caught an Uber to a hotel, had a great breakfast, and then we were picked up by both her aunt and uncle, Carlos and Patty, and we were taken through Mexico City to past Cuernavacas and into Xochitepec, where we were going to meet up with the rest of Rebecca's family uh, to have the wedding the next day. So, beautiful country. And so Cuernavacas is known as the Eternal Spring city in Mexico. So the vegetation is quite different than Querétaro. It is more green and a little bit more humid. Now, in Xochitepec, we we stayed in kind of like it was kind of like a it was a hotel, but it had individual rooms that were all ground level, so more like a motel. And a lot of the family, other parts of the family, like primas and primos and you know tios or aunts and uncles stayed at. So, and the venue was actually right beside, so it worked out awesome. It was a great wedding. I enjoyed every moment of it, and catching up and dancing and trying different Mexican dishes. And yeah, so it was good to connect with Rebecca's family again. And the wedding was Marta and Javier, and just a lovely couple. So after the wedding, Rebecca's family, her immediate, like her mom and dad, her brother Jorge, all went back to Querétaro. We stayed. We stayed with actually Carlos, Tios, Carlos and Patty. They actually have like another home in Xochitepec. So it's a gated community, but just very authentic Mexican looking construction. It's you know vibrant colors and just a great venue to hang out. And so a little bit about Carlos and Patty. Patty doesn't speak much English. Well, actually, probably not a lot. And Carlos, he speaks a little bit of English, but so it was really good for me to practice my Spanish. And of course, I'm just it's improving, but I'm no but linguist at all. So I really, it challenged me, and I enjoyed the challenge. And so, and you always have Google Translate or Rebecca to help me out when needed. So we stayed there with them for a few days before we ventured off to another city called Acapulco. Now, Acapulco, probably a lot of people know, back in the day when, in the 80s, when you watched The Love Boat, that was one of the destinations. Since then, Acapulco took a hit related to, you know, not a friendly tourist place. Something that you need to have your head on a swivel and always be aware of, crime. Well, there's two sides to the story, and you know, when I travel with my Mexican family, of course they're going to keep me out of danger. If you're going to look for danger, you're going to find it. But if you're looking to have a good time, and you're staying within the parameters of not going out late and hanging out at a nightclub or anything like that and drinking your face off, well, yeah, it's gonna be safe. And so the place that we stayed at, it's a newer part of Acapulco, and it was a gated community, so it had security, and it did have access to the beach. I was amazed by Acapulco, how beautiful it was. And we did travel into the older part of Acapulco during the day. It was safe. I didn't feel threatened or anything like that. And I did want to go see the cliff divers, the famous cliff divers, but we didn't have time for that. So, but the place that we stayed at, it was you can buy all your food and stay. It was almost like similar to like a timeshare, but more Airbnb. You had to know people. So of course, I'm with a Mexican family that know people, and so we stayed at just a lovely resort that had everything. And walking on that sand in that area, like I don't know what time of year it must have been in between tourist season or whatever, but the beaches were empty, and it was just like, wow, this is awesome. I just loved it, and the sand was so fine, and and the water just warm, and I can't I can't explain enough about it on how much I enjoyed that. Yeah. So from Acapulco, we started. We head back. So from Xochitepec to Acapulco. So Acapulco is in the state of Guerrero, and Xochitepec in the state of Morelos. So it's probably about a three 3 hour car ride. It wasn't long at all. So, and the highway was totally safe. There wasn't a lot to be worried about. And so back in Xochitepec, we stayed, and then we ventured off and did, little day trips. We went to the pyramid, and one of the pyramids was, I can't remember the name of it, but it's right close to Xochitepec. So I think it's the Xochitepec pyramid. And, hardly anybody there. When we were leaving, a bus load of students came, probably a history class of some sort or a day trip. And it was amazing. Like, it's more on top of a kind of like a hill overseeing a valley, and the view was just amazing. And so, we were able to still walk on the ruins, respectfully, right? Not, climbing and using anything and ripping things apart. And that was amazing. Another day, we went into a little town, like a silver mining town called Tasco. And Tasco is in the hills. Just a beautiful little pueblo town that had a unique feel to it. It was a different feel because, of course, it wasn't as hot as Xochitepec or Acapulco. It was more in a mountainous kind of area, so it was not cool. I mean, God, being Canadian, I mean, Mexicans don't know what cool is, so it was, but it was a little bit different temperature, that's for sure. And and then just totally speaking Spanish the whole time. it did make me aware that holy cow, I need to learn more. Like if I'm gonna be doing this full time, like I'm a little bit behind. I can get by, right? But I need to keep working at it. And you know what? Why not? Why not? I can do it. And, so the trip ended, and we went to Mexico City to depart back to Edmonton. So it was a great trip. I'll never forget that one. And seeing different parts of Mexico, and and not necessarily the parts that a lot of kind of tourists see, like Canadian American or anything like that. There's actually other lots of tourists from different parts of the world in Acapulco, so they probably don't have the red flags that the Canadian and American governments put out. So yeah, I'm not saying it's you know not safe or is safe, but you need to be smart about it. Right? So, well, that's everything for today. I bid you farewell. Hasta luego. And we'll talk again soon. Take care. Bye bye.